Welcome to MalcolmPresents.com. Heard exclusively, no, we're heard exclusively over the internet. And this is our show, Conversations with Deborah, bi-coastal dialogue with me and my friend Deborah Manning. Good afternoon, good morning, good day.
Good day. How are you, Malcolm? I'm Deborah Manning, a native Southern Californian, ex-news reporter who decided to leave my home state 6 years ago now, and I'm now in, of all places, Greenville, South Carolina. And you told me that 60 Minutes had a little segment on Greenville, South Carolina.
Yes.
So we're starting to make in the news. Well, it's a very interesting place. It truly is, and very middle class friendly, to say the least. A lot of big businesses coming in here, and they were looking for a place that was affordable and friendly and all of that, and it seemed to have met the bill. Michelin's here, BMW's here. Yeah, BMW's here, Fluor is here, General Electric, just a whole bunch of different. In fact, what's interesting now is, of all things, the Hollywood production companies are starting to move here because the cost is so little, and there's a lot of space here, a lot of warehouse space. It used to be a very big garment center through the 70s and the 80s until we started outsourcing everything to China. So there's a lot of abandoned buildings here, and it seems to be just the ticket for many of the big production studios.
Well, you're in real estate. Take a look at some of the buildings, see how much they'll go for. And maybe I can get one of the studios or a studio to come out and do the work there. Wouldn't
that be nice? Well, it's a very interesting place because it reminds me so much of Southern California. It's got something called Caesar's Head, which is about 40 miles north of us. Reminds me very much of Yosemite. And then we're close enough to the beach. I know it's 3 hours away, but still, nonetheless, it's still beachy, I have to tell you. So
well, come out there. We'll get the helicopter to take us.
That's right. So how's everything with you, my friend?
Everything's fine. Both of my boys survived the COVID they had. I had the Omicron because they had it. They tested positive, but thank God they didn't have any symptoms. They were asymptomatic.
Wow.
And so for me and Anna are fine.
Good. Now, once again, if they were asymptomatic, what prompted them to go ahead and get a test? Was it for work or for what?
Well, the older Jonathan had to do it for work because he works with the theaters, and one of them is with the schools because he goes with the LA Opera, and they do presentations in schools. So every time before he comes in, he has to take a test.
Very good. Very good.
Joshua is because one of his friends tested positive.
You are. Well, they say it's highly contagious. They say it's highly contagious.
Yeah, so. They're good. I mean, we're not good, but they listen to reports. They listen to things that are happening. They don't poo-poo it.
Well, I know for us here in South Carolina, you really don't see many masks anymore. But my husband and I, we have our masks with us all the time, and we're using the isopropyl alcohol when we go out shopping. When we get back in the car, we just spray our hands and what have you, which I think is probably a pretty good idea. It's saved us from any type of a flu for the past, my goodness, I guess it's now been 2 years. But I ended up getting COVID before COVID was COVID from the descriptions. Yeah, February of 2020 is when I got mine. And that was really just as things were getting started here, unfortunately, as it migrated over from China. And it was something to take very seriously. So we're both my husband and I have both shots plus the boosters, and we just once again just be very careful and et cetera, et cetera. So, but I'm glad to hear that the kids are okay.
Yeah, my sister-in-law got symptoms, but it turns out to be the flu.
Oh, really? Well, doggone it. Doggone it. I mean, you got to be somebody to get the Omicron or the Delta or the actual COVID, what have you. So at any rate.
They don't do any breakdowns now. They don't do Yeah, how many are Delta? How many are the regular COVID-19, and how many are Omicron?
Well, it's interesting because I know that President Biden was talking about getting home tests to everybody, and then, of course, getting the N or the K95 mask to everybody. Ironically enough, because my husband and I did the handyman business before we couldn't do it any longer as COVID started to blossom, but we had N95 masks, and it was very odd. That's the only mask that we had, and so we would go out early on in the pandemic and wearing these masks, and people would accuse us of horrible. Aren't those supposed to be only for doctors? And I finally had to say, okay, I'm a doctor. All right, I'm a doctor, for crying out loud. Leave me alone. But yeah, they do apparently prevent a lot of the microscopic bugaboos from coming in. I mean, we used it because we were doing drywall work and paint spraying and what have you. So we were using it obviously for work. And but they do stop your breathing quite a bit.
Yeah,
They're not comfortable.
That's something we talk about masks and doctors. It reminds me of the story. I have or I had, this is going back 50, 60 years, an uncle who was an automobile mechanic.
Ah,
He owned a gas station in Brooklyn. And one of his friends on the weekend, he was dressed in a jacket and tie, said, I'm looking at this car to used car dealer. Could you come over and check it out for me? So he got in the car and he went with his friend. And the used car salesman, said, oh yeah, this car is great and it's fine. So he said, let me take a look at it. So we took a look at the the engine, picked it up, and he said, well, something, I don't know if you know it, but this needs A, B, C, D. We heard what was wrong with the engine. And the car salesman says, what do you know about that? You're a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm a car doctor. It's his friend introduced, this is my doctor. I'm a car doctor. That's what.
They are.
Yeah, but anyway, but now, getting, now you're not a doctor. You have to know how to analyze computers, because you don't know what's wrong with the car. It has to be tied up to the computer.
Yep. They do. You'll have to excuse. I look a little bit. Well, I'm not going to admit to be tired or what have you, but we're getting ready for a big storm coming in. The storm, about a week or so ago, we were kind of warned that it was coming in from Canada, and everyone here in South Carolina was saying, well, it's no big deal and what have you, unless XXX happened. Well, apparently XXX did happen. So at this point right now, this thing is barreling its way across the country and is making eyes at Georgia and Atlanta and all the way up into Charlotte. And we're apparently in the bullseye. Now, once again, I enjoy being able to at least, with storms or hurricanes or what have you, to at least have a little bit of excess time. Unlike in California with earthquakes, you just don't have the time. The only problem is trying to get out and get a couple of small things. And I have to tell you, this onslaught of people in Costco and in Trader Joe's and in Walmart and all of that, good heavens to Betsy, here we go again. I mean, I look at people and say, listen, all you need milk, you need some Kleenex, you need some TP, you need some bread, and of course the beer. That's it. That's all you guys need. Now the rest of you people throw this stuff away and just get out of my way. But we were standing in lines and lines and lines today trying to get the simplest stuff.
Well, when people have kids, I really don't remember. But my youngest is 25. I don't remember when we had to, buy diapers and formula and different things for kids.
Yep. But we're getting all ready. We have a generator. We have actually two generators that are here. And it was funny. I had to take one of my little kittens off to his regular checkup. He has teeth problems and what have you. And one of our foundlings, Smitty. What's that?
People may not know, but we're starting late. Normally we start the show at noon.
That's true.
Starting at 3:00.
Yeah, it is 3:00 your time. It's 6:00 my time. But that was all because Smitty needed to go in and get his little checkup. So he did very well. He's gained a little bit of weight. He's feeling a whole heck of a lot better. But as I say, as we came on down, there was this, mad rush of people trying to get into all the various stores to pick up all the things that are needed. It'll be very interesting because the cats, of course, they're great barometers. They were great barometers in California for earthquakes, but they're very good barometers here. And they have just been going nuts. And when I say nuts, I'm talking about running around the house, ricocheting off one another, and they're very upset. I'm trying to keep them calmed down and what have you, but they know that the barometric pressure is starting to go downwards. And this storm, this is Friday night, storm should hit about this time, probably tomorrow, Saturday night. They're figuring around 6 or 7, and it'll hit with probably, they're saying it could be 3, it could be as many as 8 inches here in South Carolina. What's that?
Rain or snow?
Could be a combination of the two. The temperature is dropping quite quickly here, and we're probably down at least let's see, a couple minutes. It's about 6:20, so we're down at about 38, 39. So for this time of the day, we'll probably end up in the 20s, mid-20s overnight. And like I said, I'm a native Californian, and I'm used to the 65 degrees and being out New Year's Day surfing and all of that. So it is a different situation here, having 4 seasons. But I'm kind of liking it. I'm actually kind of liking it. But I'll let you know what happens, because it would be kind of interesting. We're on a hill, and the funny thing about it is that we then attract all of these kids and even adults that go up to the top of the hill, and they're coming down with official sleds. They're coming down on the tops of garbage cans. They're coming down basically on their parkas, down, shooting down the street at this point. So
we see that in Brooklyn with the garbage cans, the tops of the garbage cans and slide down. But anyway, what I was going to say, I have another show that I do with several shows I do with Maxine.
Okay.
Chappaqua, New York. And I did the show, I didn't do the show, but I was talking to her this morning. They were having wind gusts of about 15, 20 miles an hour, but they're supposed to have gusts coming in about 40, 45 miles an hour, which is like gale force. Yeah. And then they said the temperature might go down, the wind chill factor in the 40s, in the teens, and maybe even single digits.
Yeah.
Below 0. Then I think it's like Sunday, they're supposed to be hit with a snowstorm.
Yeah, because we'll get it first, and then it travels on its way up then into New York and into Rhode Island and what have you, obviously into Washington, D.C. as well. So it'll be a powerful one, because interestingly enough, and I'm a weather junkie myself, is that it's getting a lot of its power from a low that's coming up from the Gulf of Mexico. So that's bringing in a lot of the moisture that's necessary.
Blame the Mexicans for it.
Well, the Caribbeans, huh?
Yeah. Blame it's all coming in from Mexico. Mexico and China, we can't blame ourselves for anything.
I'll tell you. So it's politically been a very interesting week. I know that yesterday the Supreme Court decided to ruled against President Biden's mandate for private companies to insist upon vaccinations. They let it stand for healthcare workers, but it comes unfortunately on the heels of a very disturbing speech that the president. Listen, I want any president to succeed. I am, of course, middle of the road. I'm an independent. I tend towards being conservative, but I'm an American, and I want our president to succeed. However, I must say, being dressed down the way that he dressed us all down Tuesday in the Atlanta speech, he was talking about voting rights, and he was pinpointing Georgia as being racist and along the lines of Governor George Wallace, and it just goes on and on and on. I
I,
You,
I, I,
you got to calm down a little bit, for heaven's sakes. Just, back off. It just really pissed me off. I'll tell
I
you.
don't know about delivery, but I think his points are correct. I think
Well,
what's
the,
happening.
the, pro- the problem that I have with it is if we have voter suppression, I'd like to have proof of voter suppression. Everyone asked for proof of the election being rigged in 2020, and we didn't have any proof. Well, once again, I want to have proof of voter suppression. I have not heard of a single individual who's come forward who says, I was not allowed to vote for X number of reasons. I mean, doesn't that seem awfully odd to you?
Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily voter suppression in the last election. It's what the Republicans are doing now in their when they control, their own states.
Well,
That's where the
I'm
suppression
talking. I mean,
is.
it talks about Georgia being more rigid, and in fact, it's more open than even his home state of Delaware, insofar as early voting, as far as the amount of time that's given each day for voting and what have you. But all that being aside, if there is true voter suppression, Malcolm, where's the evidence? Where are the people that are saying my vote was suppressed?
No,
I
no,
was not
no,
allowed to vote.
again,
Where are those people?
we're not. He's not saying there was voter suppression in
Yes,
the.
he is.
No, wait,
Yes, he is.
not in the 2020 election. He's saying
He
what they're
said that
preparing for the
there was
2022.
continuing voter suppression that has been going on for decades. And once again, all I want to do is I want to have a couple of people up there saying, "Yep, sure enough, I tried to go vote and I was hounded. They sent dogs after me and I couldn't vote."
Okay,
But I'm not seeing a single person say that. I don't get it.
okay. That's my next year. Going to Georgia. I'm going to do a house by house search.
Well, you've got to come to South Carolina first. But you know what? That's my point. My point is that, I mean, I think we've got a solution looking for a problem. And if there was massive voter suppression, do you not think for example, the NAACP would come out parading a variety of people who, if they legitimately were suppressed in terms of their vote? I want to know. I want to know.
Again, we're talking about going into the 2022 election, and we're talking about how difficult it is for certain groups of people to vote, because then number one, the tightening up the mail-in ballot, which they have not said was corrupt. Aside from our past president, no one said that there was any hanky-panky with the mail-in. Number two, they're making the drop-offs farther and farther apart. So like people have to drive hours to cast their ballot.
But once again, but if that's the case, my dear, why don't we have masses of people saying that? Why do you not have normal, everyday people saying, I had to drive 8.5 hours to get to a polling place?
Wait, they will on 2022. That's what I'm saying. Listen for a minute. I'm saying it didn't happen in 2020, but it's going to happen with now how the Republicans are changing the election rules. What they're doing is, as a matter of fact, they're making now where the local government, not the local governments, the state governments can override the election results.
That's not going to happen.
Well, no, it is now. Wait till you see the 2022, and wait till you see the 2024. If we do not pass the voting right bill, and we're not going to, because it's not going to be brought up in front of the Senate, and why not? Is because it's going to be blocked because we had the filibuster.
Well, once again, the filibuster was very much supported by many Democrats back in 2018, and now suddenly they've changed. Once again, I don't want the majority bulldozing itself over the minority, whether that majority is Republican or whether that majority is Democrat. Well, I do think you've got to have that compromise. You've got to have that give and take. And once again, in the situation with this voting bill, you need to have a solution to an actual problem, not just a pretend problem. And I have to say that I do wish that President Biden would stop yelling at us. I don't understand why he wants to continue screaming and screeching at Americans. I want to have information from my president. I want to have some feeling that he understands the situation. For example, with inflation, I mean, it's out of hand here. It's completely out of hand. I mean, I'm starting to get my heating bills because the temperature is going down. And I cannot believe what I'm seeing in terms of the increase in heating bills. I'm up 45%. And I have not changed my thermostat, for crying out loud. So, I mean, these are real problems that I know that perhaps President Biden could care less, obviously, because he's not he's not worried about his heating bill. But I, as a normal everyday American, I'm worried about my heating bill. I'm worried about my gasoline bill, for heaven's sakes.
I don't think that the government is concerned. I mean, they're doing the thing as a whole. The Senate and the Congress and the House are do nothing. That's what I'm tired of. I want something done. And then the problem is everybody, oh yeah, well, the Democrats control. We don't control the Senate. I mean, there's this razor thin control of one vote. I mean, they lose one Democrat and they lose a vote, and there's not one Republican that's going to come over. And there are Republicans who are supposedly liberal, and none of the liberal Republicans want to move. You tell me why.
You know what? All I want to do is I want to have what's best for America. I don't want to be told that I'm a racist. I don't want to be demonized. I don't want to demonize anybody who isn't unvaccinated, because that is their choice. I don't understand it, but that is their choice. And this division, Malcolm, has got to stop. There's no need for this division.
But I believe if that is true, I believe you don't have to be vaccinated, but you don't have to be in the public. There should be, put in a corner someplace where you're not.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Where you're not going to be around groups of people.
Stop it, because you know what? We're fully protected at this point. I mean, even so, the Omicron is, could possibly get one of the two of us. Okay. And fine. Once again, I decided, along with my husband, to get vaccinated, plus boosted, what have you. That's my decision. But I'll be doggone any of the people that I know, to have them cowering the corner and ostracized because they decided not to get vaccinated. I mean, that's their choice. And if they want to have themselves endangered, that's unfortunately their choice. Like you said, not wearing your seatbelt, that's your choice. Okay. But this division that keeps going on, it seems to be on and on. And I mean, ostracizing Cinema from Arizona and Joe Manchin from West Virginia because they're horrible people. They're not horrible people. They're listening to their constituents, and their constituents are concerned about some of the bills that are being shoved down our throats.
I just want to know one thing. How come they don't think that Manchin lives on a yacht and drives a Maserati?
You know what? I don't care. I don't care.
What does he have to do with the common people?
I don't care. I live in a wonderful little 1948 bungalow, and we have one car, and you know what? I got some cats and some chickens, and I have a great life. And if Manchin decides he wants to have a Maserati and a yacht and all of that, fine. Yeah. Fine.
But what is it? 80% of the people in West Virginia are on some sort of a government subsidy.
But keep in mind, they also voted him in, and his constituents are saying, stop all of the extra government spending. Well, and especially when you're not tying it to having people work, for heaven's sake.
I think they say Build Back Better has like a 70% approval of the American public.
No. Listen, no, that is incorrect. Oh. I mean, we have a president right now that has hit, according to the Quinnipiac poll, which is a university, 33%. He's at 33% approval rate. That doesn't mean that people are supporting Build Back Better bill. People need to open up their ears. Our politicians, our representatives need to open up their ears and get out and go to a grocery store and see the empty shelf. We saw them today.
Build Back Better.
What's that?
That has nothing to do with Build Back Better.
It has a lot to do with Build Back Better.
they're comparing apples and oranges. What it is, if he could get through some of his programs that is being stopped by the Senate, this would be a better country. But a lot of things are being stopped.
I would agree, except the problem is that he's cried wolf too many times. It's like the little boy who's cried wolf. And at this point right now, I mean, the news media, even CNN is starting to turn on President Biden. And I'm not joyful about that in any way, shape, or form. I want this man to succeed. If he succeeds, then America succeeds. But you've got the combination of the rise in crime. You've got the situation with the rise in gasoline prices because of the Keystone, pipeline being dissolved. You've got the COVID situation where they didn't even order any of the home testing kits, for crying out loud, before he put the mandate on. This mandate, before it was absolved by the Supreme Court, you needed home testing kits. They didn't even order them. For crying out loud, are these people incompetent? I just don't get it.
Well, I think the problem was, or my estimate of, is that Biden came in, he wanted to, what you said, he wanted to get the Republicans and Democrats, he wanted to talk to them and get them to, agree on things. And he can't. I think he has to, instead of, the old Western word, instead of pussyfooting around, he needed a sledgehammer.
Well, unfortunately, he is sledgehammering about everything. Listen, when you've got a situation with, for example, Afghanistan and promising to take everybody out, and he didn't. You've got millions of dollars worth of very sophisticated equipment that we left behind, and at this point right now, no wonder that Russian Putin is looking at licking his chops, looking at the Ukraine and what have you. I mean, the latest intelligence report because I listened to Fox this afternoon just a little bit, saying that at this point, it looks like the Russians are once again gathering additional troops on the Ukrainian border. I mean, now, once again, do you think that we should be, sending troops to the Ukraine, or should we allow Europe to take care of it?
NATO, which is a combination of us. It's not us alone. We don't rule the world. But as I say, what I'm disappointed in Biden is that he didn't take a sledgehammer and do it. He hasn't done away with the, this is me, he hasn't done away with the filibuster. He has to do it, because otherwise we're not going to get any legislation through. We're not even going to get any debate on legislation through. I think you have to have 60 votes to get the debate through versus.
You know what? I think that if Biden would have kept to his campaign promises, which was to stay as a moderate. That's why people voted for him as a moderate, not as a left-wing progressive. We are rejecting this. People are rejecting this. I mean, for example, labeling his own education, a cabinet member from California, Becerra, decided to solicit the National School Board Association to use the Patriot Act against the parents. And then suddenly this letter appears from the National School Board, and then it's sent up to the Department of Justice. I mean, making parents being quote unquote terrorists. This is absurdity.
Again, we've been through this. If a parent threatens a member of the school board or a legislator, then he is a terrorist.
You can threaten anybody. Anybody can be threatened by anybody else. It's whether you have the ability, and if in fact it actually takes place. No crime is taken. Listen, I can say, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rob this bank. Well, guess what? That is not a crime. If I actually rob the bank, yes, that's a crime.
But if you sent a letter to the governor of South Carolina, you said, watch your step because I'm after you. I'm going to kill you if you don't do what I want you to do. That's a crime.
Listen, the bottom line is it's not a crime until it's actually there is the means to be able to do it. You have to have the means and the opportunity to be able to do it. If some hodunk guy or girl sends something to the South Carolina governor and something like that, it is not a crime.
No, but if you go to the Capitol armed to the teeth and it's illegal for you to carry a gun, and threatened to kidnap the governor.
Well,
Is that
that
a
whole
crime?
threat to kidnap the governor ended up that the FBI's own plants, their own informants, put together that entire plan. And that was supposedly to kidnap, was it the Michigan governor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Well, the FBI is called, that's called entrapment.
all I know is that listening to the news gets me depressed.
Well, you know what? There are some good things that are happening. You see some of the things that are happening. Some of the rescues that police have at this point right now, rescuing folks that go out on the ice, for example. You know, there's good things that are still happening. But I agree with you. Listening to the news is nuts because unfortunately, the administration seems to want to go away from its campaign promise of being a moderate, because I would have accepted moderate, and going into this far left baloney. We're not a far left country. We're just not. And those people, why don't you leave us alone? We'll just stay kind of middle of the road the way we are.
I don't know what he's done. I don't know what he's done that's far left.
You don't know what he's done that's far left?
I mean, the left wing of the Democratic Party is sort of like anti him. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons that they agreed to pass the infrastructure is because supposedly he was going to get the Build Back Better bill through. And that's the reason remember they were going to vote it at one time, and then he talked to them and said, no, I'm going to be able to get this done. I'm going to do this part, and then we'll do the Build Back Better. And
well, yeah, you and I have agreed. There's certain aspects of the Build Back Better bill that I would like to see in separate bills.
Well, why haven't they done that?
Separate analysis.
Why haven't
not this gigantic thing going through? It's absurd.
Okay, why haven't they done that? I don't know.
I don't know. In fact, what's interesting right now is the word is that the Democrats have barred all of the Republican senators and also the House of Representatives Republicans from any type of discussion about how to change the Build Back Better bill. And I have to tell you, there's a number of our representatives, our representative here, Tim Scott, very upset about being barred from any of those discussions. You know, you need to bring in all the people to discuss, because there's a number of things that could be salvaged out of the Build Back Better, but not this gigantic thing. Tree equity. What the hell is tree equity?
Tree equity is that everybody that owns a tree gets equity. I don't know. I think I'm getting too old for this. We need young people into the government. That's a need. We need to actually almost restructure the government. Right now, the Congress is at a standstill, and what's going to happen in another, which actually, according to history, in the 2022, we're going to have the Republicans take over the House and the Senate. And we'll still have a Democratic president. So it's going to be a total mess up. Nothing.
Well, it's very funny because I've been solicited by a number of the Republican solicitors for campaign donations, what have you. And I've refused to do it because I said, bottom line is, I want to see what policies that you folks have that are going to directly benefit me and my family. Yeah. And so far, all I'm hearing is the Democrats are horrible. Well, guess what? Okay, the Democrats as a party, I sure as heck don't want to see them dissolve. And I sure as heck don't want them to go left wing. But you know what? We need to have the yin and the yang. We need to have the Republicans. We need to have the Democrats. And we come up with great solutions. But at this point right now, we're not.
They have to talk to each other, and both of them aren't talking to each other. It's not one party versus the other. They ain't talking. Anyway, my lights just went out.
No.
If you could see. Yeah, so with that, the show's over.
Oh, doggone it.
So keep warm, keep safe.
I will, and you too. And I'm so glad that your family is okay from the Omicron virus.
And I hope, thank you. And I hope your house is safe.
I think we'll be okay. But thank you for the good wishes.
Just warm, and I will see you next week. I'll speak to you.
All right, dearie.
We'll see you
all righty. Bye-bye.